Very good day to you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Candy Talk here on Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. My name is Herman Manyora, and I'm glad that you're here with us. I'm joined by my resident guest, Wakili Willis Otieno, who is also the Deputy Party Leader of Safina Party, and of course, aspiring Deputy President come 2027. Or have I said it the wrong way?
You said it the right way. Deputy President designate.
Designate. Okay. Let's get it serious, Wakili. The Sudan government is seemingly uncomfortable with Kenya's action of hosting the leaders of the rapid support forces in this country. And of course, Kenya has been castigated by the rest of the countries as well. And this does not actually sit well with a number of Kenyans, saying very well that we've been positioned back in the past as the arbiters between warring countries, but it seems we are taking sides right now. I want us to engage in this conversation, but even before I get your view on the same and the government's action on this, kindly would you be kind enough to give us maybe just some sort of a background into this Sudan conflict and why our country now finds itself in this kind of situation?
You know, Sudan used to be led by a dictator, Omar al-Bashir,
Yes.
who was toppled as a result of a people's revolution. When people went to the streets and they forced Omar al-Bashir to be removed from office. At that point, they formed a transitional government led by the army general. And it included also certain elements of RSF and civilians. This was meant to be a transition that was going to help to see the country go back to civilian rule. But unfortunately, the RSF launched an onslaught against the military of Sudan with a view to take over leadership of that country. So as we speak now, the country is divided into two. RSF trying to fight to take over and become the leadership of that nation. RSF was led by Hemeti. But it's important that people understand the background of who RSF are. RSF used to be known as the Janjaweed. And Janjaweed were responsible for committing the worst crimes against humanity in a place called Darfur. Now in Darfur, once the Janjaweed had committed those atrocities, crimes against humanity and acts of genocide, the matter was taken to the ICC. And the warrants of arrest at the ICC against Omar al-Bashir were issued in regard to the crimes against humanity committed in Darfur by the Janjaweed. Presently now called the RSF, led by Hemeti.
So the RSF was actually a paramilitary kind of group that was used by
Omar al-Bashir. In fact, after the assignment in Darfur, Omar al-Bashir brought them as a presidential guard, kind of. And he armed them and he gave them weapons, he gave them uniform, he gave them status. Because now those were meant to be his presidential guard. So it is that group that we are dealing with now. So when we are saying that in Kenya, we are hosting Hemeti and the RSF to come here and launch their political campaign, you need to understand who they are. That is who they are. That is what they've been accused of internationally before. In fact, the US government, for example, has sanctioned Hemeti in particular due to the acts that he has committed in Sudan. But in Kenya, William Ruto lays for him a red carpet and gives him KICC, an iconic building in the central business district of Nairobi, to launch his political movement. While this is happening, we must also ask ourselves, what are the regional interests? What are the neighboring countries doing? Starting with Egypt, which neighbors Sudan to the north. Egypt is a major player in that particular region and will wish to see a resolution of the conflict. Ethiopia also has an interest in that region. And when Kenya runs in to quickly take sides in a conflict that we do not have a direct interest in, we are again further exposing ourselves internationally. Then you'll ask yourselves why Raila loses when he offers himself for AU seat. It's not Raila who loses, it's Kenya state that loses. Next time, another Kenyan will be out there looking for a position as a Kenyan representative, Kenyan candidate. Kenya will be seen as a country that supports insurgents who are meant to create instability in their countries. So this is not going to end up well. We are positioning ourselves as a rogue regime, a rogue country that can even host elements that have been accused of committing the worst crimes known to humanity and lay the red carpet for them. That is where we are today. And if we are being honest to ideals, we should ask ourselves, what is our foreign policy position on conflicts, internal armed conflicts? What has been our position? Kenya as a country has always taken an aligned position. But since Mudavadi and Korir Sing'oei went to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they seem to have thrown away the diplomatic book out the window.
Hi there, my name is Nongo Njao, property consultant at 1442 Kusini. We are a new project coming up in South B, Sana Sana area. We are close to Mombasa Road, about 700 meters to Mombasa Road. We also have a bunch of amenities around us, schools, hospitals, mosques, churches, and Capital Center is only a stone throws away. I will want to tell you about our one bedroom, which is going for 5.45 million, and our two bedroom going for 7.45 million shillings. Our two bedroom is a master and suite, and all our units feature Adobe areas.
So Korir Sing'oei and Musalia Mudavadi are not doing this country any favor. They should leave office.
And actually, that brings me to the next question here, because definitely we've got a policy here on some of these conflicts that do take place between various countries or even within different countries within the continent, and even others that do take place outside the continent. Why is it that we are seeing some sort of complete departure from our non-aligned kind of policy? And of course, while at it, I would also like you to maybe give us your view on the response of Prime CS Musalia Mudavadi.
You see, that response was a very stupid response because it didn't address the main issue. He didn't condemn the presence of RSF. He, in essence, tried to wish away what the Sudanese authorities had raised in their letter. It's a very simple reason. Kenya has provided a ground for a rebel group to come and launch a political movement in its capital. Mudavadi didn't respond to that. The Sudan statement did not raise the question of we need to find a solution. We're asking Kenya to help us find a solution. Their statement was very clear. Kenya is becoming a hostile state, hosting rebel groups into its territory with a view to plan attacks against civilians in Sudan. And these attacks are not far-fetched. They have happened and they are still happening. Just last week, over 200 civilians were killed by RSF forces in a village in Sudan. 200. That is just one day. Go and read the conflict in Darfur. Over 10,000 people were killed in the conflict in Darfur. And those who are responsible were largely the Janjaweed that has now repackaged itself to be called the RSF. So those are things that we cannot wish away. And the Kenyan state cannot hide under trying to find a lasting solution. What lasting solution when you are offering one side that is actually accused of committing grievous crimes against humanity? You are giving them a launch pad for a political movement. What is that? In the ideal, Kenya should be arresting these characters. Besigye here, they arrested, and Besigye was just attending a mayor book launch for Martha Karua. They abducted him and sent him to Uganda. Why didn't they abduct, met his brother, and send him back to Sudan? Why is it that for those who commit crimes against humanity, a red carpet is laid for them? So the Kenyan state has failed. William Ruto, Korir Sing'oei, Musalia Mudavadi, they have failed us on the diplomatic front. Their foreign policy has failed. And this foreign policy is not informed by national interest. I cannot see any national interest in what they are doing. It simply means that for them to be cajoling with these armed groups, then there must be personal interest for them. It's not national interest, because let them justify what is the Kenyan interest in Sudan.
Wakili, when you look at the Sudan situation here, do you think that maybe the other side, because we are getting an information that the Sudan government has actually criticized what Kenyan government has decided to do in Kenyan soil here. But at the same time, there are people who are arguing that the other side is not any better, because they're saying, even if you look at it right now as it stands, there isn't a civilian government in Sudan. What we have is a military junta that has decided to take control. And of course, as it is right now, even Sudan itself has been barred from participating in activities of African Union and even the United Nations, all this censorship and stuff. So does it mean that owing to the fact that the other side is not actually maybe a civilian government, then it would be proper that for us to find a final solution to this, they may be taking a position such as the one that the country has taken.
But even if you say that, what you're calling the other side represents the military of the country, duly established. And it was a transitional government. It was even called a transitional government of Sudan that brought together different players in that country.
When the two are working together, both RSF
and also members of civil society, religious groups. It was a broad-based, it was a conglomeration of interest in Sudan. And the view was that we are going to do this for a period as we transit to a civilian rule through an election. Now, when RSF moves out and starts committing acts of attack against that transitional mechanism that has been put in place, why should Kenya help them? So are they going to also ascend to power through lawful means? It's not lawful means. So Kenya has taken sides. So how are you helping the Sudan to find a solution to its conflict when you've taken sides and hosting one side? Why not host both of them? And bring them together on the table. So it's purely personal interest that they're pursuing here. It has got nothing to do with the national interest of Kenya. In fact, next you'll hear that Sudan has closed its airspace to Kenya. So the KQ flights to parts of Europe, to Egypt, where will they follow? Yeah, pure and simple. It will be a very costly thing to even our national economic interest. Because now the flights to Egypt, we'll have to find a longer route to get there. So what is the national interest? That's the question I ask. A basic thing like even just Sudan saying we are closing our airspace to Kenyan flights. What will happen? They may also decide to declare war on Kenya, see it as a hostile country. What will happen? So I don't see national interest.
So what you're seeing is a conflict of personal interests and national interests at the same time.
And as it is today, William Ruto, so Korir Sing'oei, and Musalia Mudavadi's personal interest seems to be informing this kind of rapprochements.
Allegedly, personal interest.
Because let them explain to us the national interest of Kenya that they are pursuing in accommodating one side of the divide. Yeah, we've agreed there are two sides of the divide. What is the national interest in taking sides with one side? What is so special about Janjaweed and RSF? Because the last I checked, Janjaweed had committed serious crimes against humanity in Darfur. It cannot be in our national interest to protect such an entity, even if it has mutated into become RSF. It can't. What is our national interest? A group that has been accused of killing over 10,000 civilians, women and children, and men. No. What is our national interest to engage such a group? Tell me the national interest. Nobody can define for you the national interest for engaging with a genocidaire or a group that is committing crimes against humanity. It cannot be. And if it exists, let them put it on the table. That in our interest, let's associate with the RSF because this will give us this benefit as a country. They cannot point it out to you. So it only means then the engagement may be serving some personal interest, not the national interest. And that's what we are calling out. RSF should not be laid for any red carpet in Nairobi. And if Kenya, for example, thinks that it wants to find a solution to Sudan, then it should be laying the red carpet to both sides, hosting both sides, providing a dialogue platform for them to resolve the dispute. RSF did not come here that we are launching a political movement that is going to negotiate, that's going to find a lasting solution to the Sudanese problem. They said we are launching a movement for a transitional government to go and take over that country. Is that our interest? It cannot be. So it's personal interest of William Ruto, Korir Sing'oei, and Musalia Mudavadi. That is the only thing that can be serving. But I challenge them. Put on the table the national interest that is being served by taking sides in this conflict. Put it on the table. And we've had occasions where Kenya has hosted different groups, warring groups. The Sudan peace agreement was partly negotiated in Kenya that gave birth to South Sudan. You could see both sides were on the table. Somali government, they've been on the table here in Kenya, both of them. Both the warring factions. Even now the South Sudan warring parties are being put on the table. Both sides are represented. This is one-sided.
So if at all the president was genuine, because we are aware that he's in full control of everything. He is the man here, and of course the buck stops with him. If at all he was genuine in trying to solve the conflict in Sudan, then he should have brought on board both warring parties here.
Precisely. He should have brought every side of the conflict to the table. But he's brought one side and given him safe passage in Nairobi, given him iconic KCC to launch his political movement. What is that? That is not trying to find a solution to the conflict.
So this actually fuels the conflict between these two groups. Now, well, people are also wondering about the potential security risks that this may actually pose to the country, this move by the government.
Of course, it exposes us. What if the other side decides to retaliate against Kenya? They see Kenya as a hostile state. I've just given you the most mundane example. They decide to close the airspace. That now our flights cannot get to Egypt or Europe through Sudan airspace. Where will we follow? We now have to find a longer route. At whose cost? They may also decide to attack the country, deem Kenya to be a hostile country and attack it. They may even sponsor terrorist attacks here. So you become now fodder. Anything goes. They see you as hostile, and if you're hostile, they can do anything to you. To what end? What is it that we are gaining that we will wish to sacrifice our security and safety to achieve that interest? We don't have any. I can't see any on the table. So it can only mean there's somebody's personal interest, personal relations. Okay? And that is what I say, William Ruto's administration puts personal interest over national interest. And this is serving personal interest, not national interest.
Why is it that it's so difficult? Why do you think the president finds it so difficult to stick and follow the due foreign policies of this country with regards to some of these things?
Because the foreign policy is about personal national interest. Because if it was about national interest, we will have been guided by our existing foreign policy on how we relate with in internal armed conflicts or in conflicts between countries. It will have guided us. But that policy is being put aside. So which is this new one that allows rebel groups to form here and operate and launch political movements that we are not finding a solution? Because we always, previously, have tried to find solutions, bring together the warring parties. Here now we are taking sides. It's not found anywhere in the book. So it's personal. It's personal to him. It's got nothing to do with the national interest.
Today's dailies are calling this recklessness, and they're like, these people do not actually care. Maybe they do not know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing. They are pursuing personal interest. This reckless duo are pursuing personal interest at the expense of national interest. That is why I urge all Kenyans. Kasongo is not someone that you waste time with. Kasongo just has to go. The people of Kenya are the ones going to bear the brunt of this recklessness. He is there as an executive representing the people. It's not about personal interest. And if he cannot represent the interest of the people, then he should vacate office and let the Kenyan people choose someone who represents their desires, not someone who is using their office to pursue personal interest, as he's doing today.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, our eyes are still fixed in what is taking place in this country and across the borders. And of course, as it is, it's like our diplomatic image here is being hurt. But let's wait and see what happens. Till then, weigh in and tell us what you think about the meeting that just happened in the country where the president agreed to host the RSF, of course, military leaders from Sudan. Till we have this conversation again, have yourself a lovely day, and thank you for watching and for being part of this family. My name is Evans Okenyi.